everyone, we are seeing our first race results of the night. Georgia and South Carolina, they're right now too early to call. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to NBC News Election Headquarters. Live coverage of Election Night 2020. It is finally here.
Yeah, and polls are already closing around the country. Here's what we're going to be watching tonight. First, it's the fight between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, of course, for those crucial battleground states that will decide this election, including Arizona, Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin.
We're tracking each candidate's road to 270 electoral votes. That's the number, of course, needed to win the presidency.
There's another big story tonight. Who will control the United States Senate? A handful of races will determine that question, and we're watching them all.
So polls have just closed in 6 states with 60 electoral votes. Let's get right to it. And you see right now, Georgia, it is too early to call.
Let's go to South Carolina. There's a big Senate race as well as the presidential. Too early to call. We're waiting for vote there. In Indiana, we can make this call, and it's an expected one. The president will easily carry Indiana, the home state of Vice President Mike Pence. And let's look at Virginia. It is too early to call. However, our projection is that it is a Biden lead at this hour.
All right, let's take a look at Kentucky. And Kentucky right now, too early to call. But you see the first numbers we're getting of the night. Vermont is too early to call, and let's look at how all this takes us on that road to 270 right now. And you can see Donald Trump with 11 electoral votes to Biden 0.
Well, it could be a long night, and this is going to be an election like no other. We've got Andrea Mitchell here with us. We have Chuck Todd here with us. And one thing that's different is the enormous amount of mail-in voting. 100 million people have already voted before today. So we wanted to just break down, when you see expected vote in the top right-hand corner of our graphics, that includes mail-in voting. It's not just day of voting, but includes mail-in voting as well.
Yeah, we're not looking at just precincts. That's the term you're not going to hear a lot of tonight. It's this expected vote, which is an educated estimate. It may change a bit here or there, but it'll be the thing to watch tonight as we get that road.
It is, and look, I'm just going to show you real quick how you'll be able to follow it, and we'll show you real fast here and take a look at one of our states right now. Here, hopefully we are starting to get here. We should be able to see it here in Indiana. And not yet here. Well, we will work on that. The data is coming in here any second now. We'll go here, and let's see if it's working. There we go. Right here, we're going to be able to tell you, and you'll see this on all of our state results all night long. We'll tell you, in Indiana, we knew there were 207,000 early and absentee votes, and see this orange line. You'll see this as the night, and we'll see some states you're going to see the early and absentee take up most of that column. Then your election day vote's going to come in at yellow there, and you'll start to see the yellow. A place like Pennsylvania, we expect more yellow than we will orange. And then this gray spot. Look, I want to tell people something. This number, it's an estimate. It is an estimate. It could change throughout the night. We may learn more. Oh, there's more ballots than we thought, or there's fewer ballots than we thought. But this is the expected vote as best as we can estimate it before the election. So this could move by anywhere from a percentage point or two. But this is what we'll be letting you know about all night long.
The main thing is we are counting.
We've got some numbers coming in. Let's look at the Virginia presidential race. And right now, that's too early, but we can report that Biden is leading in Virginia.
Let's look at Georgia. It's a swing state this year. We don't usually say that. It's too early to call, but we're starting to get a few votes in. Let's go to South Carolina. Too early to call there as well.
In Vermont, we can project that Joe Biden is the winner in Vermont.
Coming up 8 o'clock on the East Coast, 5 o'clock in the West, and there are a bunch of polls about to close. 16 states plus Washington, D.C., including a couple of key battlegrounds just a few seconds away. We do have some results in Kentucky. The president is the projected winner. Not a surprise there. Let's go to some other states.
Yeah, Georgia, it's too early to call. North Carolina, too early to call. Ohio, also too early to call.
Now let's look at South Carolina, also too early to call. Big Senate race there going on as well.
All right, and Biden leading in Virginia right now. That's too early to call.
All right, we await those 8 o'clock poll closings.
All right, we've got the 8 o'clock poll closings now. We can look. There is Florida, too close to call. Note 82% expected vote in there. In Pennsylvania, too early to call. No surprise, that one's going to take a while.
Yeah, way too early. New Hampshire, also too early to call. Just a few votes in. In New Jersey, Joe Biden is the projected winner at this hour. And in Maryland, we've got Joe Biden as the projected winner.
NBC projecting Biden the winner in Massachusetts as well. Also in Delaware, Biden wins. Biden also the projected winner in D.C.
All right, and Oklahoma will go for the president. In Illinois, we are calling it too early, but Biden is leading in Illinois. He's led in the polls. Connecticut, same thing. Too early, but Biden is leading.
Here's what's happening in Alabama right now. Too early to call. Too early in Maine as well. Same story in Mississippi, Missouri. Biden leading in Rhode Island, but that one's too early to call. Trump leading in Tennessee.
All right, so where does that put us? We've just made some calls. Here we go. Let's get to the map of 270. That's how you get elected president in this country, as we show Tennessee, but I think we can roll the map. And now we've got a few more numbers to report. Joe Biden, not surprisingly, carrying those big cities in the east, and we see Donald Trump in some of his strong red territory. Chuck, this is unfolding as expected.
Nobody's won a road game yet.
Yeah.
You know, Pat Riley used to say back in those 7-game series, you know, a series doesn't begin until somebody wins a road game. Well, a series doesn't be an election night doesn't begin until we flip a red state blue or a blue state red. All right, think about that. 300,000, 88,000. So he's got, and she lost the state. So he's got to find more than 220. He's got to find some 300,000 extra votes in all these margins, if not 500,000 extra votes. I'm just saying, Florida looks like an uphill climb for Joe Biden.
Let's not forget Barack Obama spent a lot of time in Florida here in the last couple of weeks.
Yes, he did. I think a lot of questions are going to be asked, though, to go back to did they hear the calls of Miami-Dade enough? Look, the Biden campaign will get criticized if they're not carrying Georgia or North Carolina. The criticism about their Florida strategy will either amp up or down depending on how well they do in neighboring Georgia and up the coast in North Carolina.
All right, and we just projected Tennessee going to the president. No surprise there. Donald Trump, the winner of the 11 electoral votes there.
Let me just pause a second and note that we have this Senate call from Kentucky. Mitch McConnell, the incumbent, will hold on against Amy McGrath.
All right, and we'll also have another call from West Virginia. President Trump will take it as expected.
Back to NBC News 2020 election coverage. We have got another call that's in the state of Connecticut, and when NBC News projects Joe Biden as the winner in Connecticut, not a big surprise there.
The votes are rolling in. We're looking at Ohio now. It was a battleground for years and years, but it wasn't in 2016. Trump took it by 8, I believe.
Trump took it by 8 points.
Exit polls that are interesting in terms of
We are.
demographics.
I mean, look, I know people are watching the raw returns come in, and I had the governor, Mike DeWine, said, hey, the Democratic numbers will be high early. Republican numbers come in, but he thought it was going to be close. The exit polls indicate that. And look at the suburban and urban and rural splits here. You know, Trump's vote in 2016, he did, you know, it was sort of 38% of it was from the urban area. Well, we've seen while he's increased his margin, he's increased his vote share in rural counties in Ohio. He's decreased his share in suburban and in urban. So the question is, again, everything is a margin game here. Now, if you're Joe Biden, you'd rather trade suburban votes for rural votes, suburban counties for rural counties. There's just more raw vote there. Question is if it's enough. We've seen some suburban white vote has dipped 7 points from 4 years ago, and Hillary Clinton lost it by 8. Ohio's going to be close.
Texas, too early to call at this hour. In Arizona, it is also too early to call, as you might expect.
Michigan, too early to call.
Got some results in from Minnesota. Not many, actually. Too early to call there. Wisconsin, it's going to be a long one. And in New York, Biden will pull that one out and not shock anyone.
Colorado, too early, but Biden has a lead there. Kansas, too early. And Louisiana, too early. Biden, though, with a lead.
All right, and let's look at Nebraska. Too early to call there. We're keeping an eye on that one particular congressional district that can be quite competitive. In New Mexico, it is too early to call. In North Dakota, too early to call, but the president is leading.
Same story in South Dakota. The president leading too early to call. And Wyoming, it's too early to call. Trump with a lead there.
So let's put up our map of 270 and let's see how it shakes out at 9 o'clock Eastern time, 6 o'clock Pacific. And there you have it. Numbers don't quite tell the story. We're going to have to wait for all the votes to be counted.
Welcome back. We've got a couple of new calls to make in the presidential race in Colorado. Biden is the projected winner. South Dakota, Trump, the projected winner.
Okay, so if you're keeping track at home, that's one apiece. Let's ring Garrett Haken. He's in Houston, Texas. Texas saw just an enormous outpouring of early vote. Garrett, what are we seeing now as the results are starting to come in?
Savannah, as those early votes are getting counted in the big cities, you're seeing Joe Biden build a bit of a firewall here in Harris County, in Dallas County, in Tarrant County. That's the Fort Worth area. That particular county is essentially tied, but big leads for Biden in Dallas County and Harris County, but perhaps not big enough. He's outperforming Hillary Clinton's margins in the state from 2016 significantly, but he's about on par with where Beto O'Rourke was in 2018 in a race that O'Rourke ended up losing by about 2.5 points. The other sign of concern for Democrats in the state, the Rio Grande Valley, traditionally Hispanic counties, places like McAllen, Texas, appear to be underperforming for Biden as to where Clinton was 4 years ago. The trick for Democrats here was always going to be run up the score in a major way in Harris County. Now, with just the early votes in, Biden does have a firewall, but as these same-day votes start to come in, you just wonder if it's going to be enough for him to hold on in a state that was always a bit of a reach state for Democrats, but one where they felt a lot of demographic trends and people moving into the state might give them a shot at flipping the state for the first time in some 40 years. Savannah?
All right, Garrett, thank you. Interesting, though, to see that theme.
Some new calls. Let's look at North Dakota. And President Trump is the projected winner in North Dakota.
In Alabama, President Trump is the winner there. There's also a Senate race going on there. We'll check in with that in a few moments.
And looking at Florida once again, checking in there. It is too close to call, but Trump leads in Florida. And in Texas right now, too early to call.
Welcome back. We got a call. Senator Cory Gardner is going back to Colorado, and former Governor John Hickenlooper, the Democrat, will pick up that seat. So that's one more in the Democrats' column in their race to try to regain control of the United States Senate. We do have something to report in the Georgia Senate race. There's actually two Senate races, and this one will advance to a runoff. Raphael Warnock there, the Democrat, having sufficient votes, we're projecting to get to that runoff, which will be held in early January. Chuck.
Right, and the question's going to be which one of Loeffler or Collins joins Warnock in there.
All right, Andrea, thanks very much. We've got some Senate calls, or at least some characterizations to show you. South Carolina, this is Lindsey Graham, who's faced an onslaught of money from the Harrison camp, but too early to call. Graham leads right now there.
All right, let's go to Nebraska, where NBC projects Ben Sasse, the incumbent, is headed back to Congress rather handily. We'll also keep an eye on that one congressional district in Nebraska that often flips, and we'll see how that is going in a few moments.
We'll take a break here. Be back with more Decision 2020 election night coverage after this. Mike, gentlemen, thanks very much. Before we pause for a quick break, an update from North Carolina's governor's race. And the incumbent, Cooper, will win, will continue to be governor.
All right, and in New Mexico, we've got Joe Biden prevailing in that state. It'll pick up New Mexico's 5 electoral votes. We're back right after this.
As we come back from a break, a new call to make. This in the House of Representatives. NBC News projects that Democrats will maintain control of the House of Representatives.
All 435 seats in Congress up for grabs on the House side. And so Nancy Pelosi, Andrea, will remain House Speaker.
But we don't know by what margin. She said she's going to run again. And the progressives may make a run at it if it's a narrower margin. But she will retain control. She says she wants to be Speaker again.
Welcome back. 10:30 in East, 7:30 out west. Louisiana's votes are in. NBC News is projecting Trump as the winner there. In Kansas, the president holds on and holds the state of Kansas. There's also a Senate race going on there.
In New Hampshire, it looks like Joe Biden will win. We project him as the winner. Florida, in that race, too close. Trump leads, but that race still too close. Watching it very carefully.
Same story in Texas. It's too early to call, but the president does have a lead there, and North Carolina's getting just a little bit more interesting. It is too close to call there, and we've been watching that one real closely tonight.
Ohio would be bonus category, and right now it's too early to call. Too early in the Georgia presidential contest as well.
All right, let's keep it going. Here we go in Virginia. Too early to call, but Vice President Biden does have a lead there in Wisconsin. We could call it way too early to call. They still are counting votes there.
Pennsylvania, they'll be counting them for a while. Too early in Pennsylvania. Minnesota, which we were discussing a few moments ago, that's too early as well.
All right, let's go to Maine, which divides its electoral votes by congressional district. We're calling that too early to call, but we did see a split decision in 2016 with Donald Trump picking up one electoral vote there. We'll see what happens. And Arizona, too early to call. The vote is coming in fast and furious. Vice President Biden with a lead there in Arizona at this hour.
Let's take a look at Iowa right now. Too early to call. Nevada is too early as well.
All right, Montana, too early to call. We'll keep an eye on that race, and hope to give you some Senate races in a moment here as well. And in Utah, as expected, President Trump wins. So that brings us to 270.
So let's add them all up, and here's where they stand right now. Biden leading 98-92 on that road to 270.
Hallie Jackson's over at the White House. What have you been hearing from your sources inside the Trump campaign?
Let me jump off of something that Chuck was just talking about as it relates specifically to Georgia, because the characterization from one person that I spoke with tonight is that folks are not feeling panicked yet. They're looking at Georgia. They are perhaps not feeling as good as they had been earlier in the day about it. But at this point, that is when they're watching, because of specifically what Chuck was talking about there, the suburbs around Atlanta, the way that the president could perform. They're specifically looking, and you heard Jason Miller talking about, for example, Black and Hispanic voters. In Georgia, they're specifically looking at the performance that the president will have among Black voters there. So that's something that they're keeping an eye on. There is a lot of, again, we have not called Florida yet here at NBC News, but there is some, I would say, preemptive dunking from members of the Trump campaign about that state. There is really a sense that I'm starting to pick up from talking to folks tonight that this is a little bit how it went in the early hours of election night 4 years ago, if you remember, feeling like the polls were wrong, feeling like they were the underdog campaign that was able to come from behind and win 4 years ago. And there are people, listen, the president has surrounded himself this year with the same sort of cast and crew that he did 4 years ago in large part. So there are a lot of people who are holding on to that memory and wondering if tonight is going to end up having the same result for President Trump. When you talk about the mood sort of more broadly, the president is spending election night here at the White House. Listen, any other election night, I would be standing here in front of you from, the election night watch party, if you will. We're not doing that tonight because of, obviously, the pandemic. Things have changed quite dramatically over the last 9 months or so. There are about 250 people, according to one attendee, inside the White House right now, inside the East Room. They're watching one of the cable networks, the president's preferred channel, frankly, at least most of the time, which is Fox News. They're watching that on the big screens, cheering when some of the races get called there, having some snacks. Members of the Trump cabinet are there, members of the Trump family as well. And right now, the sort of energy in the room, we're told, is very positive based on some of the things that we're seeing. Now, might that change as we start to get in more vote from Arizona? That is definitely one that we're drilling down on with sources tonight. That was one of the states that the folks that I've been talking to in the Trump orbit hadn't been feeling very, very confident about. They were feeling what I would say hopeful, optimistic, but not extremely confident. And there now seems to be perhaps some reason for that we're seeing in the numbers that have come in, at least so far tonight.
Okay, Donald Trump, the projected winner in Missouri. That's brand new. Chuck?
Well, Missouri at one time used to be a swing state. It wasn't that long ago, but it's just not enough. This has become a very much more the rural numbers just start to produce. But I want to go back to Ohio and just button up Ohio here a little bit. It does look like Donald Trump is on his way to winning. And remember, I told you it's all about the lake here. I know that's black on the board, but I swear to God, the water is blue on there. And I told you about these Democratic counties from 2018. 2018, a pretty good Democratic year overall. So let's look at the Trump Dem counties. And as you can see, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 counties that Sherrod Brown, the Democratic senator who won re-election in Ohio in 2018, carried. And as you can see here, this was going to start with Biden needed to carry these. And they're just not happening. Erie County, I told you Erie to Erie. This was an important one. Sherrod Brown carried it. Joe Biden trying to be the same type of Democrat didn't happen. You look over here in Ottawa, it's close, and it still be. There's more time. There's a lot more vote out there that could end up making that. But you see, this generally is the problem. Look at Ashtabula County, this was one Trump won big, and he's winning it bigger this time. So there is some evidence, and it's something Jason Miller brought up, that in some of these Midwestern rural counties, they are bringing out some more vote. So we shall see.
Chuck,
one other thing.
Just quickly, I want to go back to the board here because I think we've got a call.
Another call
in Illinois here.
Okay.
Joe Biden is the projected winner in Illinois. That's 20 electoral votes in his column. Hello, everyone. We are just back on the air here. We want to show you some Senate numbers right now. And this is starting off the state of Louisiana.
All right, that's Senator Cassidy headed back, and we've got an upset. This was the most vulnerable senator probably in the United States Senate. The Democrat from Alabama, Doug Jones, has lost. Tommy Tuberville, the Auburn coach, takes that race. So that's a gain for the Republicans in the Senate.
Dick Durbin will have another term in Illinois. We project he will win. In Arizona, too early. Mark Kelly, though, leading Martha McSally right now, and this is a race that could be affecting what we're seeing on the presidential side in Arizona.
Let's go to Arkansas. Tom Cotton, the incumbent, headed back. He wins that one. West Virginia, same thing. The incumbent returns. Shelley Moore Capito, easily defeating her opponent there.
All right, and to Georgia, Perdue, too early to call in that race, but this has been a race that certainly has drawn a lot of national attention, as has this one. Lindsey Graham and Jamie Harrison, a lot of money spent in that race, but right now too early to call, but Graham leads.
Same story up in Maine. It's a two-way race right now, essentially, between Senator Collins, the incumbent, and Sarah Gideon, although there are other candidates and they have ranked choice voting. So I'll just cut to the chase. It could be a while in Maine. It's not going to be tonight.
That's what you can say. Not tonight.
Okay, so go Betty bye if you're waiting for Maine. Mississippi Senate is too early to call there. Mike Espy, the congressman, trying to take on the incumbent Cindy Hyde-Smith.
Marshall leading in Kansas right now. That race is too early to call. In Michigan, also too early to call.
That's one that folks had their eyes on, potential Republican pickup. We'll see if that holds. Here's Minnesota. A lot of talk about Minnesota tonight. It is too early to call. Let's go to the Iowa Senate race. Another one where Joni Ernst, the incumbent, looking to hang on against a challenger, Teresa Greenfield. Too early to call there. We'll watch that one.
And here's how the Senate breaks down right now. Dems 41, 40 seats for the Republicans.
All right. This was the one I just assigned to Chuck Todd. Nebraska, projected winner of 3 of 5 electoral votes. Do I have that right? That's what it
right
says.
Now, right.
Yes.
Well,
We're awaiting the congressional district.
Well, there's two, right? So that sounds like we're not ready to call the first either, which would be Lincoln, but that's going to probably be Republican. But Omaha is the second congressional district. Polls have indicated that Joe Biden had a pretty a lead there that looked like his leads in Wisconsin or Michigan in that 5 to 8 point range, but you had the actual congressional race itself. The former Democratic congressman endorsed the incumbent Republican congressman over the Democratic nominee. So there's a lot of potential split ticketing. I don't think anything is a slam dunk there for the Democrats nabbing one electoral vote. And hey, we know every electoral vote counts. And if you've ever seen those 269 scenarios, this is why Nebraska 2 and Maine 2, and by the way, we have a long way to go in Maine getting their vote. Some of this vote is same-day vote. We don't have some of the mail-in vote.
I see you turned in extra credit. Andrea, what are you watching?
Got a couple presidential calls to make right now. First, in Mississippi, NBC News projects that Donald Trump will win in the state of Mississippi.
In Wyoming, President Trump takes it, which brings us to the map of 270, the road to 270. It's starting to fill out. We're just a few minutes away for some poll closings in the West and a big call in South Carolina to make.
Yeah, Lindsey Graham is going to hang on. Of course, he got hammered by a lot of spending from outside. Jamie Harrison and the criticism over Senator Graham's positioning on the nomination of a Supreme Court justice during an election year, but he will hang on, the projected winner in South Carolina. Now to that three-way race we were talking about in Georgia. This will advance to a runoff on January 5th.
Hi, everybody. Our election night coverage rolls on. It is 11 o'clock in the east, 8 o'clock in the west, and we have a bunch of results to report to you, including some poll closings. California just closed. Joe Biden, the projected winner there. out west, Oregon, Joe Biden expected to win handily there. Oregon's 7 electoral
And
votes.
Biden will sweep the Pacific Coast as we're projecting that he will win in Washington, the state of Washington as well. Idaho, too early. Trump leads there, however.
We started the night talking about Florida. We'll start talking about Florida. It is too close to call at this hour, but the president is leading there. Republicans feeling good about that. In Texas, a similar story. It is too early to call, but the president has taken a lead in Texas.
We've been carefully watching North Carolina, and that is still too close to call, but you see the numbers on the screen there. Also in Ohio, too early to call.
Let's go to Georgia. Democrats had high hopes here. It's too early to call. We'll see how that one shakes out. We've seen a couple of the Senate races advance to a runoff in January. In Virginia, it's too early to call, but Vice President Biden is leading in that race.
Let's take a look at a pair of the states in that blue wall the Democrats are hoping for. Wisconsin, too early. Pennsylvania, too early as well.
And in Minnesota, where there's been a lot of talk tonight about whether or not this one will flip, right now, too early to call, but you see with the votes in the Vice President Biden with a lead there, and in Maine, where they have a ranked choice voting, so it could be a while. It's too early to call.
Not a whole lot of vote left in Arizona. We're watching that. It is still too early to call. However, Biden is leading in Arizona. Iowa, too early right now.
And let's go out west to Nevada. Too early to call. We'll keep an eye on that one.
Joining us now is Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware at Biden headquarters in Wilmington tonight. Senator, thank you so much for being with us. So walk me through it. So maybe you pick up Arizona, you lose Florida, maybe you lose Georgia, maybe you lose North Carolina. What's the likely or most the shortest path to 270 for Biden?
Well, Lester, as you just pointed out, there's several paths for Joe Biden to be elected our next president. But we have to remember, over 100 million Americans voted early, whether in person or by mail. And as Chuck was just pointing out, there are different rules in different states for whether they have already counted and are already reporting that early vote, or whether they're just beginning counting it and won't report it for several days. I'm hearing encouraging things about Ohio, about Arizona, about Iowa. So I think there still remain several paths for Joe Biden tonight, while President Trump has a very narrow path. And frankly, I'd rather be in our camp than his tonight. We have to remember that every vote needs to be counted before we conclude this election. Vote counts happen at the state and county level, and we have a number of states and counties that have already indicated they won't be done counting votes for several days.
As we come up on the midnight hour, a big call now for President Trump in the state of Ohio. NBC News projects that Trump will win Ohio and take its 18 electoral votes. It's a state that Joe Biden thought he might have a chance in. It paid a visit there quite recently.
He did pay a visit there quite recently. It was less of a battleground than it's been in years past. Chuck, Ohio going to President Trump, that was on his must-do list.
It's definitely on his must-do, and as you can see, he's starting to pad a little bit of a lead here. It's up to 8 points, which is getting close to what he won it by with Hillary Clinton. I can show you here from 4 years ago. He's already surpassed his number. Biden is doing a little bit better in Clinton because he's getting some of that third-party number here. But you can see is the predictions about Ohio, say, 6 weeks ago, a lot more accurate than they were perhaps 6 days ago.
Another call here. You see it on the screen there. Virginia, NBC News projects that Joe Biden will win Virginia's 13 electoral votes.
In Idaho, the president has won Idaho's 4 electoral votes. In Georgia, it's a squeaker. It is too early to call. We await, last check, a lot of votes still coming in the Atlanta suburbs, which could be telling. Let's go to North Carolina. Too close to call. That is also a squeaker, to use the technical term.
Pennsylvania goes without saying at this point, too early to call there.
Maine is too early to call as well. We'll keep an eye on that one. In Arizona, it is too early to call. However, we are projecting that Joe Biden has a lead there.
Minnesota, it is too early to call. Michigan, too early to call as well.
And let's go to Texas. Too early to call, but the president has jumped out to a lead there in Texas, so we continue to watch that one. In Wisconsin, too early to call. We were just discussing that one with Chuck.
Iowa's too early to call, as is Montana. Nevada, we're just starting to see our first votes coming in from Nevada. That's too early to call. Hawaii.
Yeah, Nevada was one mentioned by Cory Lewandowski of the Trump campaign as a potential pickup for President Trump. We'll see if that plays out. The polls haven't suggested that. And in Hawaii, too early to call. We just got a poll closed there.
So let's look at where that stands in the race to 270. Joe Biden leading right now, 205 to 136.
We've got a big call to make. It's official now. NBC projects Florida goes to President Donald Trump. We've been watching this all night. We've been very careful, but this is going to go into the Trump column, an absolute must-win for him.
Look at the difference, 380,000 votes. Let me go back here and take you back very quickly to Miami-Dade, just to remind you where there was 300,000 votes 2 cycles ago. So as we see, the difference was that. Let's go. So Joe Biden won it by 83,000. Hillary Clinton won it by nearly 300,000. So you want to know where 200 of the 300,000 votes is? It's sitting in Miami-Dade County. So there's no doubt Miami-Dade County, even as, you know, he could feel good. He added, I mean, Osceola County, I think that's an addition in here, if I will. No, not quite a flip county, never mind that. But this Miami-Dade story is, you know, it may be a unicorn, it may be all those things, but as we saw with, we've seen it with some Hispanic men as well in other states.
It's really
this Latino thing is an issue here for the Democrats. Look, it's interesting, and you wonder if Joe Biden doesn't improve with older white voters, that's kept him in this race, we'd be talking about, boy, Democrats really have to get their base out.
Call in Iowa.
Yes.
NBC News projects that Donald Trump will win the 6 electoral votes in Iowa.
Okay, so Andrea, that's what I find to be so perplexing about this tweet, because here the Trump campaign's having a much better night than it expected to have, and now the president is signaling through this tweet by saying they're trying to steal it, et cetera, that he doesn't feel that they're going to win. I don't understand how that adds
This is
up.
what he has been saying every single day, that it's not right that the Supreme Court let Pennsylvania start counting tomorrow, really, tonight and tomorrow, that 3 days. But there are, Mike Mamley, who has covered the Biden campaign forever, has spoken on the record and gotten from Senator Bob Casey exactly what I have been hearing from others not on the record, so we couldn't report it. That Joe Biden has been calling around. He's very nervous about how slow the count is in several of the big counties.
In Pennsylvania.
Not coming in.
In Pennsylvania.
In Pennsylvania. So he's been calling around, and according to Senator Bob Casey, speaking to Mike Mamley, according to Mike's note, that Biden was calling Casey and checking him. Why are these counties, like some of the Philadelphia suburbs, not reporting? Why is this so slow? So it is that early vote factor, but also, you know, he himself is getting nervous. That's why Joe Biden came out, because he anticipated exactly what the president did, which was a tweet saying that the vote is being stolen, starting to change the narrative. And Biden, with the optimism and telling people to be patient, was trying to at least capture that mood. But privately, he is calling people, elected officials and former officials in key counties.
Well, that's what's so interesting about it. Here you have Biden, who according to this
Projecting
reporting, is a
optimism,
bit
but
nervous
very
about the race. And then at the same time, Hallie, you've got the president signaling publicly that he's nervous about the race because he's now saying they're stealing it, which suggests he thinks he's losing. So, you know, we're trying to put all these pieces together.
Good evening. Your patience is commendable. We knew this was going to go long, but who knew we're going to go into maybe tomorrow morning, maybe even longer. But look, we feel good about where we are. We really do. I'm here to tell you tonight, we believe we're on track to win this election. We knew because of the unprecedented early vote and the mail-in vote that it's going to take a while. We're going to have to be patient until the hard work of tallying the votes is finished. And it ain't over till every vote is counted, every ballot is counted. But we're feeling good. We're feeling good about where we are. We believe one of the nets has suggested we've already won Arizona, but we're confident about Arizona. That's a turnaround. We also just called it for Minnesota, and we're still in the game in Georgia, although that's not one we expected. And we're feeling real good about Wisconsin and Michigan. And by the way, it's going to take time to count the votes. We're going to win Pennsylvania. I've been talking to folks in Philly, Allegheny County, Scranton, and they're really encouraged by the turnout and what they see. Look, you know, we could know the results as early as tomorrow morning, but it may take a little longer. As I've said all along, it's not my place or Donald Trump's place to declare who's won this election. That's the decision of the American people. But I'm optimistic about this outcome. And I want to thank every one of you who came out and voted in this election. And by the way, Chris Coons and the Democrats, congratulations here in Delaware. Pardon? Hey, John, the Gov, yeah, the whole team, man. You've done a great job. I'm grateful to the poll workers, to our volunteers, our canvassers, everyone who participated in this democratic process. And I'm grateful to all of my supporters here in Delaware and all across the nation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And folks, you heard me say it before. Every time I walk out of my grandpa's house up in Scranton, he'd yell, "Joey, keep the faith." And my grandma, when she was alive, yelled, "No, Joey, spread it." Keep the faith, guys. We're going to win this. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Here's what in the Florida presidential vote, NBC News projects that Donald Trump will win Florida's electoral votes.
We're starting to get some of the battlegrounds in Ohio. The president took Ohio 18 electoral votes into his column.
And let's look at Iowa. Trump projected winner in Iowa, 6 electoral votes. Texas, too early to call. Trump leads, however. Whoop, I'm just sorry. In my ear, as those words came out of my mouth, Trump now is the projected winner in Texas. Again, Trump now the projected winner in the state of Texas.
All right, in Minnesota, it is too early to call, but we can say that Joe Biden is leading in that state. In Arizona, it is too early to call, but again, it appears that Joe Biden has taken a lead there.
Georgia is the curious one that we're watching right now, as Chuck keeps pointing out, waiting for those numbers, those votes to come out of the Atlanta area. But right now, we characterize it as too early. North Carolina is too close to call.
Let's go to Pennsylvania. It is too early to call. We await mail-in ballots there, which can arrive up to 3 days after Election Day if they are postmarked Election Day. Here's the presidential race in Montana. It's too early to call, waiting for votes there, but the president has a lead.
Maine is too early. Michigan, also too early. That's part of what Democrats hope will be that blue wall.
Michigan, yeah, we talked about that. Wisconsin's the other one, too early to call. We're awaiting votes in Milwaukee County, which is a big one for Joe Biden if he hopes to pull that one out. And in Nevada, too early to call.
And Alaska is too early to call. So where does this lead us? Let's show you the electoral map at this hour. The road to 270, and it's got Donald Trump now out front with 209 electoral votes to 205 for Biden.
Montana's presidential race, and we're calling it for President Trump. No surprise there. Rhode Island, Chuck scooped us, Lester.
Well, it showed up on, I was about to look for
Old
a little
news
while.
now.
Yes, exactly. And in Maine, it's too early to call, but Biden is leading, although there is that one electoral vote in Maine that possibly the president could pick up. And in that scenario of an electoral tie, that could become extremely relevant. So there's your map at this hour, 1:15 on the East Coast.
We have called this now. It's not registering here, but we have called. Our decision desk says Joe Biden's going to win this electoral vote, which we know Nebraska splits up. So that's one. It's an important one. And again, look, Rich Lowry was the first to point this out. This does add, especially if Arizona and Nevada end up both blue, this means the president needs 2 of his 3 from the blue wall states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. He can't just do this with Michigan. If indeed Arizona is headed in blue, Nevada's blue, and Minnesota stays the way it is. So that's what that Nebraska electoral vote does. It sort of adds one more hurdle to the president.
A call in Minnesota. NBC News projects that Joe Biden will win the state of Minnesota 10 electoral votes. And Senator, I'll let you react to that if you'd like.
That's great.
There's a reaction.
Another win.
All right, good talking to you.
Thank you very much.
All right, be well.
Thank you, Senator. Well, that was interesting because remember we had heard from Jason Miller, the Trump campaign chair or advisor earlier, that he felt that Minnesota could be in play for President Trump. NBC now.
Look, he gave us numbers that look like they're closer to right in North Carolina, but his Minnesota projection was pretty off. 8-point win. Look, this was a state that I'm going to guess that this, and you know, it's funny as we're sorting out this night, the president is the one that may look around the map and go, boy, there were some missed opportunities. They talked about Minnesota. They didn't make a real campaign in Minnesota. They talked about Nevada. They didn't make a real campaign in Nevada. You start to look around. Look, we're experiencing a major realignment in this country, a political realignment where it's lopsided on the popular vote, but it's dead even in this electoral college. We have this sort of rural urban split that is real. It looks like suburban America may be moving, you know, sort of 60% with the blue team, but the 40% may be hanging with the red team. And that means we are living in a very polarized world right now.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Please sit. Thank you. This is without question the latest news conference I've ever had. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. And I want to thank the American people for their tremendous support. Millions and millions of people voted for us tonight. And a very sad group of people is trying to disenfranchise that group of people. And we won't stand for it. We will not stand for it. I want to thank the First Lady, my entire family, and Vice President Pence, Mrs. Pence, for being with us all through this. And we were getting ready for a big celebration. We were winning everything, and all of a sudden it was just called off. The results tonight have been phenomenal, and we are getting ready. I mean, literally, we were just all set to get outside and just celebrate something that was so beautiful, so good, such a vote, such a success. The citizens of this country have come out in record numbers. This is a record. There's never been anything like it. To support our incredible movement, we won states that we weren't expected to win. Florida, we didn't win it. We won it by a lot. And we won the great state of Ohio. We won Texas. We won Texas. We won Texas by 700,000 votes, and they don't even include it in the tabulations. It's also clear that we have won Georgia. We're up by 2.5% or 117,000 votes with only 7% left. They're never going to catch us. They can't catch us. Likewise, we've clearly won North Carolina, where we're up 1.4%. or 77,000 votes with only approximately 5% left. They can't catch us. We also, if you look and you see Arizona, we have a lot of life in that. And somebody declared that it was a victory for, and maybe it will be. I mean, that's possible. But certainly there were a lot of votes out there that we could get because we're now just coming into what they call Trump territory. I don't know what you call it, but these were friendly Trump voters. And that could be overturned. The gentleman that called it, I watched tonight, he said, well, we think it's fairly unlikely that he could catch. Well, fairly unlikely. And we don't even need it. We don't need that. That was just a state that if we would have gotten it, it would have been nice, Arizona. But there's a possibility, maybe even a good possibility. In fact, since I saw that originally, it's been changed, and the numbers have substantially come down just in a small amount of votes. So we want that, obviously, to stay in play. But most importantly, we're winning Pennsylvania by a tremendous amount of votes. We're up 600. Think of this. Think of this. Think of this. We're up 690,000 votes in Pennsylvania. 690,000. These aren't even close. It's not like, oh, it's close. With 64% of the vote in, it's going to be almost impossible to catch. And we're coming into good Pennsylvania areas where they happen to like your president. I mean, it's like very good. So we'll probably expand that. We're winning Michigan, but I'll tell you, I looked at the numbers. I said, whoa. I said, wow, that's a lot. By almost 300,000 votes, and 65% of the vote is in. And we're winning Wisconsin. Now, so we're winning. We don't need all of them. We need, because when you add Texas in, which wasn't added, I spoke with the really wonderful governor of Texas just a little while ago, and Greg Abbott, he said, congratulations. He called me to congratulate me on winning Texas. I mean, we won Texas. I don't think they finished quite the tabulation, but there's no way. And it was almost complete, but he congratulated me. Then he said, by the way, what's going on? I've never seen anything like this. Can I tell you what? Nobody has. So we won by 107,000 votes with 81% of the vote. That's Michigan. So when you take those three states in particular, and you take all of the others, I mean, we have so many. We had such a big night. You just take a look at all of these states that we've won tonight, and then you take a look at the kind of margins that we've won them by. And all of a sudden, it's not like we're up 12 votes and we have 60% left. We won states, and all of a sudden, I said, what happened to the election? It's off. And we have all these announcers saying, what happened? And then they said, oh, because you know what happened? They knew they couldn't win. So they said, let's go to court. And did I predict this, Newt? Did I say this? I've been saying this from the day I heard they were going to send out tens of millions of ballots.
We're listening to the president speaking at the White House, but we got to dip in here because there have been several statements that are just frankly not true. The president going through some of the states, stating that he has prevailed in those states, naming Georgia, saying they're winning Georgia, or that they won Georgia, there's no way they'll catch us, that they're winning Pennsylvania, won Michigan. The fact of the matter is those states have not come close to counting all of their vote. There's still outstanding vote. Do we have a moment to go to Chuck? We'll keep our ears on this and promise to go back as news events warrant. But just can you explain why it is that it's not possible for anyone to say they've won in this particular state?
Right. So what we have here, first of all, 1.9 million votes have not been counted. Can I repeat? 1.9. That is 3 times the lead that Trump has. Okay, so that is way too many votes, number one. And as you can see, most of this is Election Day vote. We know the president had an advantage on Election Day vote, so we have gotten very little of the early and absentee vote. And then you want to throw in one more way of just seeing, let me just remind you of where we are with Philly. Half of Philly has not come in.
Let's go to Michigan. He said Michigan, that he's running up margins in Michigan, and we've won Michigan. So can you show us how much vote is left over in Michigan that hasn't been counted
As you can see, we've only gotten 2/3 of the vote in. This is actually, so there's this 303,000 difference here. Again, 1.8 million votes are left to be counted. Let me repeat, 1.8. Do the math. It's 6 times, okay?
What about Wisconsin?
All right, so that, and as you can see, most of this is still same-day vote. So this is why Michigan, a lot of people are so bullish for the Democrats on Michigan the minute that vote comes. And then Wisconsin, this is where, but it's tight, and it's 116. 81% is in. We're waiting for 700,000 votes. And trust me, with Milwaukee being one of the places, 116 is not enough there. And I'll just go you real quick here. Milwaukee, we still have less than half.
And notably, the president also talked about a group of people trying to disenfranchise the vote.
This hour at 4:36 Eastern Time out in Hawaii, NBC News can project Joe Biden is the winner of Hawaii's 4 electoral votes. Not a big surprise, but that's a projection we can make at this hour.
Set the stage. Where are we right now?
Sure. Let's go through. Look, the next few hours, we expect a little bit of action. And where I want to look, the big one is, I believe we just called a state that we've been waiting on calling, and that is the state of Maine. And that would be 3 of the 4, I believe, because right now we know that the president is winning that 2nd congressional district here. So that's 3 additional electoral votes with Maine. We had not called Maine. We were waiting for a little bit more to come in, but that puts us 3 more there, and they're all crucial here right now for Joe Biden.
Let's put it up here. I think NBC News is now projecting Joe Biden is the apparent winner in the state of Wisconsin. 10 electoral votes. That was an important prize in the Democrats' blue wall. So again, NBC News projecting that Joe Biden, the apparent winner of Wisconsin, 10 electoral votes. Peter Alexander, let's send it over to you.
Just interrupt you just for a moment, Pete. Stay with us. Michigan on your screen right now. This is a very big call that we are now ready to make. NBC News Decision Desk projecting the winner of Michigan, Biden. Vice President Biden with 49.8% of the vote to 48.6%. For President Trump. Again, that is a key call that we've been waiting hours and hours for since last night. Kristen Welker's been talking about the blue wall. We've all been talking about it. We've been talking about Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Hallie Jackson at the White House. We now have Wisconsin blue on our map. We have Michigan blue on our map. That makes it significantly harder for the president.
I'm juggling a lot here.
Hallie, can you hear Kate?
Oh, Kate, hi. Thanks so much. We're just dealing with some tech stuff here on the White House North Lawn. It has been quite the afternoon, as you can imagine, quite the last really 24 hours for President Trump here. Listen, here's where the race is sort of set up to go from here. The president's path to victory, the biggest battlegrounds, right? We now, a day after the election, we are not talking about things like, we're still talking about the battleground states, but the battlegrounds really are the courtrooms in these states.
If you've been wondering who's in the boiler room at NBC News, who's been crunching the numbers day and night, there he is. His name is John Lipinski, and he joins us now. Hi, John.
Hi. How are you?
Well, let's talk about that. Did you hear what Secretary Hobbs just said of Arizona? She's talking about 420,000 votes out of 600,000 outstanding in Arizona. And so the bulk is coming from Maricopa County. Not to put you on the spot, what does that suggest to you?
Yeah, so, I mean, that's really critical. I mean, as Chuck had just said, Biden's slightly winning that 52-46 right now. So what it tells me, it's all going to come down to Maricopa. And Trump's going to have to overperform by quite a bit of what he's actually done. Is it possible? Yes. But, I mean, he's probably going to need to win about 60% of that vote in Maricopa to be able to catch Biden. So it's within the realm of possibility, but I'd actually rather be Biden in this moment.
And this is these are the votes that you've been waiting for, and that's standing between you and calling this race.
Yeah, that's right. It really is going to depend upon how many of those votes that they actually give us. They first told us they were going to give us a dump, 1 early on, but now they're going to be 2. I mean, I think they're trying to see how late I can stay up because I now know that the second batch is going to come at 12:30, and I can stay up very late.
You can. We are the Energizer Bunny. But, John, I think this is a year where transparency is really appreciated. If you can kind of bring us into your process, because, folks are watching. They might see other news organizations calling a race. Some have called Arizona for Joe Biden already. We haven't. Some called Florida very early. We didn't. We wait. What is, in plain speak, what's your metric? How certain do you have to be before you're going to say, on behalf of NBC News, we have a projected winner?
Well, we have to be 99.5% confident at a minimum. But really, Savannah, what we're doing right now is we're going through and literally scrubbing the data county by county. So it's not good enough for us just to analyze the data. We're looking at the county in a very detailed way to make sure that we don't see anything abnormal with the results. Does everything check out? We do a lot of quality control. And so we might be 99.5% confident. And, and so maybe others were and they called it, but we need to even go a step further. We actually need to make sure it's all there and right.
And this, I don't know if this is a question, we got to go break. I spared you from the question of when we're going to know, but that was the question.
How does it end, John? And when?
Between him and his priest.
Yes.
We'll take a break. I want to go right now to Arizona. Gotti Schwartz has been watching, he was watching the actual count a few moments ago. He's moved outside where people are letting their opinions known. What do you got?
I just watched you.
Hey, Lester, how's it going? Yeah, so we're not turning on the lights because we don't want to draw too much attention to us. You're going to see that there's going to be some people that are pretty antagonistic. But right now what they're doing is they are gathering in front of the election center. Inside, they are counting all those ballots, those 300 or so thousand ballots that are still outstanding. And inside, what you're hearing, poll workers are hearing a lot of the chanting out here. They're hearing people screaming. And then we've got this crowd, and we're gonna walk this way just to show you. We've actually got a pretty sizable convoy coming in of trucks. We've got some trucks coming in over on the side here. The crowd continues to grow, and what we're seeing is we've got a police presence over here on this side. But then over to the left here, again, we're trying not to bring too much attention to ourselves. We're trying to be keep a low profile, so you're not going to see the lights, and it's difficult to see exactly what we're talking about. But you've got this pretty large crowd right here in front of. Sorry, this is what happens whenever you come out here. We're trying to document what's happening. We're trying to document what the people inside are listening to as they're counting those ballots. Now, the unfortunate thing that we've seen is that a lot of these these employees at the polling center, they have to come out and they are greeted by this rather large crowd. We're going to come up this way. And you can see that there are sheriff's deputies that are surrounding this crowd. Let me show you what it looks like when these poll workers come out. We've seen them escorted out and put into a van and then driven somewhere. And then down in the crowd, we have seen some people with guns, but so far they have insisted that this is a very peaceful protest. Just a little while ago, we saw a couple people with rifles slung on their back. In fact, you've got a gentleman down there that you see with he's got some sort of tactical vest on, and then right next to him is a woman who's got a rifle slung on her back. The crowd has been here for about an hour. They started at the Capitol. They came here. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, what exactly is it that they want, or what message are they trying to send?
Well, interestingly enough, just a little while ago, they were chanting "Fox News sucks, Fox News sucks." They were saying that they were angry over Fox News calling this race, calling Arizona for Biden early on. Obviously, it's still too close to call. It's still too early in this process. But they were directing their anger towards what seemed to be Fox News for a little while. They're also directing their anger at the officials here. There was a group of them trying to get inside. They were asked to leave because they weren't wearing masks, asked to come outside to talk. And then the crowd appeared. So we're not exactly sure what all of their complaints are. We have heard them talk about how this election is being stolen from the president. We've heard them talk about the use of Sharpies in the election. We checked into that. Some of them were saying that they used Sharpies, or they were given Sharpies during their election process, and that invalidated their vote. That appears to be not the case at all. In fact, election officials say oftentimes those Sharpies work better, and they have been told to use those Sharpies because the ink dries faster. So the officials here have assured us that all those votes are going to be counted. But as you can see, this crowd is just filled with a lot of people are voicing their anger here in front of where poll workers are trying to tabulate those votes.
Well, people blowing off steam. It's unfortunate because we were talking about the poll workers and the work that tirelessly working. It's late there. It's late
partisans.
everywhere.
Not partisans. Leave them out of it.
Well, you know, and it's ironic, too, because they're counting votes, and that's Donald Trump's best hope right now in Arizona, is that they'll count those votes and that the margins will become slimmer. But, you know, this is a time of great tension as we wait here. It's the second night. It's Wednesday night. We don't know who the president is yet. So, you know, you understand why tensions boil over, but hopefully it's not directed at the good people who are just trying to count votes.
Let me take you to Georgia. This is another one that's been trickling in. You see the margins down to 13.5, below 14,000. And look, we've been telling you, they've all been coming in, looks like, from these blue counties because Biden's been winning at about a 70% clip. If he continues that with what we think is left, it's somewhere in the 45 to 55,000 range of ballots. Which is obviously enough. This is going to be a tie, and you'd rather be Biden, because in here, they believe provisionals are going to help Biden.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is an NBC News special report on Decision 2020 race for president. It's been a cliffhanger. Several critical states still counting votes. Democratic candidate Joe Biden speaking at his headquarters in Wilmington, Delaware. Let's take you there.
No one, not anything else, that chooses the President of the United States of America. So, each ballot must be counted. And that's what we're going to see going through now. And that's how it should be. Democracy is sometimes messy. It sometimes requires a little patience as well. But that patience has been rewarded now for more than 240 years with a system of governance that's been the envy of the world. And we continue to feel, Senator and I, we continue to feel very good about where things stand. We have no doubt that when the count is finished, Senator Harris and I will be declared the winners. So I ask everyone to stay calm, all the people to stay calm. The process is working. The count is being completed, and we'll know very soon. So thank you all for your patience, but we have to count the votes. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we do have an update on the vote in Pennsylvania. We want to take a look at that, but our understanding is that Joe Biden, yes, has now taken the lead in Pennsylvania. As the votes continue to come in, he is now up by 5,587 votes. We assume that we had votes coming in from the Philadelphia area where Joe Biden has been gaining by huge margins. He's been winning the mail-in votes coming out of those areas with 80-90% of the votes. So this was sort of what knew was inevitable, that Joe Biden was continuing to close the gap. The question was, at what point would he finally reach Donald Trump's total and even take the lead? And then the question now will be, how much further is this going to go? How big of a lead could Joe Biden build? Because it's very clear the momentum across the state is that he's gaining votes as all of these mail-in votes and these absentee ballots are counted.
I think that's a really, really important thing to point out there, that this is what we expected. While it is a big vote shift, it is not something that was necessarily a surprise. Of course, we did not know how exactly the numbers were going to shake out, but President Trump was encouraging his supporters, people who were going to vote for him, to actually show up on the polls at Election Day. We had that big lead for President Trump because they did, in fact, seem to listen to that. As these mail-in votes come in, we are seeing them go towards Joe Biden's favor, which, again, is exactly what we are expecting. We're saying we have 95% of that vote in. It is still too close to call. We have been getting these in batches. As Joe just mentioned, we were waiting on these a lot from the Philadelphia area, some also over from on the other side of the state, the Pittsburgh area, both two Democratic areas that we were still waiting for the most amount of those mail-in votes to be counted and come in.
This is an NBC News special report. Here's Lester Holt.
And we welcome our stations in the West as we come on with President Trump making remarks right now at the White House.
I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us. If you count the votes that came in late, we're looking at them very strongly, but a lot of votes came in late. I've already decisively won many critical states, including massive victories in Florida, Iowa, Indiana, Ohio. To name just a few, we won these and many other victories despite historic election interference from big media, big money, and big tech. As everybody saw, we won by historic numbers. And the pollsters got it knowingly wrong. They got it knowingly wrong. We had polls that were so ridiculous, and everybody knew it at the time. There was no blue wave that they predicted. They thought there was going to be a big blue wave. That was false. It was done for suppression reasons. But instead, there was a big red wave. And it's been properly acknowledged, actually, by the media. They were, I think, very impressed. But that was after the fact. That doesn't do us any good. We kept the Senate despite having twice as many seats to defend as Democrats. And in a really much more competitive states, we did a fantastic job with the Senate. I think we're very proud of what's happened there. We had many more seats to defend. They spent almost $200 million on Senate races in South Carolina and Kentucky alone, 2 races, and hundreds of millions of dollars overall against us. At the national level, our opponents' major donors were Wall Street bankers and special interests. Our major donors were police officers, farmers, everyday citizens. Yet for the first time ever, we lost 0 races in the House. I was talking to Kevin McCarthy today. He said he couldn't believe it. 0 races. Very unusual thing, 0. And actually won many new seats with, I think, many more on the way. This was also the year of the Republican woman. More Republican women were elected to Congress than ever before. That's a great achievement. I won the largest share of non-white voters of any Republican in 60 years, including historic numbers of Latino, African American, Asian American, and Native American voters, the largest ever in our history. They're so one-sided.
We're watching President Trump speaking live from the White House, and we have to interrupt here because the president has made a number of false statements, including the notion that there has been fraudulent voting. There has been no evidence of that. Allegations by his campaign, but his campaign spokespeople unable to provide any evidence. He also has suggested that the polls, and many of which were incorrect, were somehow the product of election interference. Chuck Todd, Andrea Mitchell with me here. Hate to cut away from the president, but
look, he's trying to set a narrative, and he's even admitting that it was a narrative he was beginning to set before the election. Remember, I've been talking about these mail-in votes. This was clearly going to be a strategy, or at least it comes. He's sort of presenting it that way on that front. But I also think he's trying to accomplish something else here. He's trying to project a little bit of strength within the Republican Party. He began by trying to talk about all of the successes down the ballot, and I found that to be almost a reminder to the Republican Party, hey, how come you don't have my back? He didn't say it that way, but he's looking for Republican help beyond his loyalists here, and I think that's clearly what he's trying to do. So he's trying to paint this false picture of how the election counts go. This is not, I mean, this is a fairly, because it's a close election. Close elections, it takes a while because you got to wait to see all the vote to figure out who won or lost. That's the only reason this has taken an extra couple of days. But the counting of the absentee votes or mail-in votes has actually gone, I think, quite smoothly when you consider how many people chose that option. So he is just, it's just plain old conjecture.
And
There's nothing there.
Andrew, he says the GOP kept the Senate. That is still not a settled question
Thank
right
you for
now.
pointing
There's
that
a couple of runoff races in Georgia that could, if Biden wins the presidency, give.
By the way, can I jump? Some people took, we had said David Perdue had fell under 50%, and some people took that as saying we had already said it's going to be a runoff. All this stuff's unofficial. It certainly looks like, and there could be 2 runoffs, but the point is there is no indication yet that Republicans have guaranteed the majority.
We don't know the Alaska Senate yet either. The fact is that none of the prominent elected officials, that Republican officials, have come to the defense of the president's assertion that this is fraud and that it's rigged. I mean, not Mitch McConnell, not others. In fact, his sons have been tweeting that these Republicans who have other Republicans, Nikki Haley and others, who might have ambitions for 2024, are not coming to his defense strongly enough. So there's been a lot of anger in social media from the Trump family.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. We don't have a final declaration of victory yet, but the numbers tell us it's clear, tell us a clear and convincing story. We're going to win this race. Just look at what has happened since yesterday. 24 hours, we were behind in Georgia, now we're ahead, and we're going to win that state. 24 hours ago, we were behind in Pennsylvania, and we are going to win Pennsylvania. And now we're ahead, but we're winning in Arizona, we're winning in Nevada, and in fact, our lead just doubled in Nevada. We're on track to over 300 electoral college votes. And look at the national numbers. We're going to win this race with a clear majority of the nation behind us. We've gotten over 74 million votes. Let me repeat that, 74 million votes. That's more than any presidential ticket has ever gotten in the history of the United States of America. And our vote total is still growing. We're beating Donald Trump by over 4 million votes. And that's a margin is still growing as well. One of the things I'm especially proud of is how well we've done across America. And we're going to be the first Democrat to win in Arizona in 24 years. We're going to be the first Democrat to win Georgia in 28 years. And we've rebuilt the blue wall in the middle of the country that crumbled just 4 years ago. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, the heartland of this nation. I know watching these vote tallies on TV moves very slow, and as slow as it goes, it can be numbing. But never forget, the tallies aren't just numbers. They represent votes and voters, men and women who exercise their fundamental right to have their voice heard. And what's becoming clear each hour is that record number of Americans of all races, faiths, religions chose change over more of the same. They've given us a mandate for action on COVID, the economy, climate change, systemic racism. They made it clear they want the country to come together, not continue to pull apart. The people spoke, more than 74 million Americans, and they spoke loudly for our ticket. But while we're waiting for the final results, I want people to know we're not waiting to get the work done and start the process. Yesterday, Senator Harris and I held meetings with groups of experts on public health and the economic crisis this country is facing. The pandemic, as you also know, is getting more worrisome all across the country. Daily cases are skyrocketing, and it's now believed that we could see as many as 200,000 cases in a single day. The death toll is approaching 240,000 lives lost to this virus. That's 240,000 empty chairs, kitchen tables, and dining room tables all across America. We'll never be able to measure all that pain and the loss, the suffering that so many families have experienced. We know something about what it feels like to lose someone. And I want them to know they're not alone. Our hearts break with you. I want everyone to know on day one, we're going to put our plan to control this virus into action. We can't save any of the lives lost, any of those who have been lost, but we can save a lot of lives in the months ahead. Senator Harris and I also heard yesterday about how this recovery is slowing because of the failure to get the pandemic under control. More than 20 million people are on unemployment. Millions are worried about making rent and putting food on the table. Our economic plan will put a focus on a path to a strong recovery. Look, we both know tensions are high. They can be high after a tough election, one like we've had. But we need to remember, we have to remain calm, patient. Let the process work out as we count all the votes. You know, we're proving again what we've proved for 244 years in this country. Democracy works. Your vote will be counted. I don't care how hard people try to stop it. I will not let it happen. The people will be heard. Our journey is toward a more perfect union, and it keeps moving on. In America, we hold strong views. We have strong disagreements, and that's okay. Strong disagreements are inevitable in a democracy, and strong disagreements are healthy. They're a sign of a vigorous debate, of deeply held views. But we have to remember, the purpose of our politics isn't total, unrelenting, unending warfare. No, the purpose of our politics The work of the nation isn't to fan the flames of conflict, but to solve problems, to guarantee justice, to give everybody a fair shot, and to improve the lives of our people. We may be opponents, but we're not enemies. We're Americans. No matter who you voted for, I'm certain of one thing. The vast majority of almost 150 million Americans who voted, they want to get the vitriol out of our politics. We're certainly not going to agree on a lot of issues, but at least we can agree to be civil with one another. We have to put the anger and the demonization behind us. It's time for us to come together as a nation to heal. It's not going to be easy, but we have to try. My responsibility as president will be to represent the whole nation. And I want you to know that I'll work as hard for those who voted against me as those who voted for me. That's the job. That's the job. It's called the duty of care for all Americans. We have serious problems to deal with, from COVID to the economy to racial justice to climate change. We don't have any more time to waste on partisan warfare. You know, and more than that, we have such an incredible opportunity to build the future we want for our kids and our grandkids. I've said many, many times, I've never been more optimistic about the future of this nation. There is no reason we can't own the 21st century. We just need to remember who we are. This is the United States of America. And there's never been anything we've been unable to do, unable to accomplish when we've done it together. I hope to be talking to you tomorrow. I want to thank you all, and may God bless you, and may God protect our troops. Good night.
Today, Lester holding Savannah Guthrie in New York, the moment the entire country has been waiting for after a very close race. NBC News now projects that Joe Biden has won the Keystone State, Pennsylvania, and its 20 electoral votes.
And that means we can now project that former Vice President Joe Biden has been elected President of the United States. He is President-elect Joseph Robinette Biden at 77 years old. Chuck, we'll turn to you. This map is a real interesting one, not necessarily the path that anyone thought would have unfolded, but here we are.
Here we are. Look, we got just enough vote in order to call Pennsylvania, even if it may slip into a recount. We think there's just mathematically nearly impossible for the order of finish to change in Pennsylvania. And when you look at it in many ways, Joe Biden won with a somewhat traditional map in the Midwest. He rebuilt the blue wall, and narrowly, but he did it. He added 2 sort of expansion states, it looks like, potentially, when all's said and done, with Arizona and Georgia. But the fact is, he did it without it. And it proved that 4 years ago, the biggest important lesson from this election is that 2016 was not an outlier. This is essentially the 2016 election with the Gary Johnson vote going to Joe Biden. And here we are.
I will tell you, too, Lester, you know, right when the race was called by NBC News and other outlets, you couldn't hear what was happening on Black Lives Matter Plaza on the park just outside of the White House where I am. You can sure hear it now. We have been hearing more honking, more air horns, more cheering. It is a loud situation. The president this is the scene. You can see actually it's filled up. And just to give you some perspective, on the top of your screen, you can see there's a fence and then a grassy area. That's Lafayette Park, which is just to the north of where I'm standing at the White House. It has been barricaded. The gates and the fencing have been put up, non-scalable, officials say, because of the expectation that this would exactly be the scene on election night. We had to wait 5 days for that, right? Took a while to get here. But this is why the reinforcements have been put in place around the White House, because of the expectation of potentially protests or demonstrations like the sort of celebration that we are seeing right now. At some point, the president's going to come back to the White House, Lester. He's at the golf course now. That's just across the Potomac River in Virginia. He didn't take the helicopter. He doesn't do that since it's such a close trip. He drives through the streets in his motorcade, and he will have to motorcade back through the streets of Washington with this scene visible to him. This is not a president who often gets glimpses of life outside the bubble, so to speak. He confronted that a couple of times recently. I'm thinking most notably over at the Supreme Court after the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, when people booed he and the First Lady when the two of them showed up after Justice Ginsburg was laid to rest in her there at the Supreme Court. But it is going to be, I think, a real potentially jarring moment for President Trump to see how the country is reacting to his loss as he continues to strike, frankly, this very defiant tone.
Thank you. Good evening. So, Congressman John Lewis, before his passing, wrote, "Democracy is not a state, it is an act." And what he meant was that America's democracy is not guaranteed. It is only as strong as our willingness to fight for it. To guard it and never take it for granted. And protecting our democracy takes struggle, it takes sacrifice, but there is joy in it, and there is progress, because we, the people, have the power to build a better future. And when our very democracy was on the ballot in this election, with the very soul of America at stake, and the world watching, you ushered in a new day for America. To our campaign staff and volunteers, this extraordinary team, thank you for bringing more people than ever before into the democratic process. And for making this victory possible. To the poll workers and election officials across our country who have worked tirelessly to make sure every vote is counted, our nation owes you a debt of gratitude. You have protected the integrity of our democracy. And to the American people who make up our beautiful country, thank you for turning out in record numbers to make your voices heard. And I know times have been challenging, especially the last several months. The grief, sorrow, and pain, the worries and the struggles. But we have also witnessed your courage, your resilience, and the generosity of your spirit. For 4 years, you marched and organized for equality and justice, for our lives and for our planet. And then you voted. And you delivered a clear message. You chose hope and unity, decency, science, and yes, truth. You chose Joe Biden as the next president of the United States of America. And Joe is a healer, a uniter, a tested and steady hand, a person whose own experience of loss gives him a sense of purpose that will help us as a nation reclaim our own sense of purpose. And a man with a big heart who loves with abandon. It's his love for Jill, who will be an incredible First Lady. It's his love for Hunter and Ashley and his grandchildren and the entire Biden family. And while I first knew Joe as vice president, I really got to know him as the father who loved Beau, my dear friend who we remember here today. And to my husband, Doug, and our children, Cole and Ella, and my sister Maya, and our whole family, I love you all more than I can ever express. We are so grateful to Joe and Jill for welcoming our family into theirs on this incredible journey. And to the woman most responsible for my presence here today, my mother, Shamala Gopalan Harris, who is always in our hearts. When she came here from India at the age of 19, she maybe didn't quite imagine this moment, but she believed so deeply in an America where a moment like this is possible. And so I am thinking about her and about the generations of women, Black women, Asian, white, Latina, Native American women, who throughout our nation's history have paved the way for this moment tonight. Women who fought and sacrificed so much for equality and liberty and justice for all, including the Black women who are often, too often, overlooked, but so often prove they are the backbone of our democracy. All the women who have worked to secure and protect the right to vote for over a century, 100 years ago with the 19th Amendment, 55 years ago with the Voting Rights Act, and now in 2020 with a new generation of women in our country who cast their ballots and continued the fight for their fundamental right to vote and be heard. Tonight, I reflect on their struggle, their determination, and the strength of their vision to see what can be unburdened by what has been. And I stand on their shoulders. And what a testament it is to Joe's character that he had the audacity to break one of the most substantial barriers that exists in our country and select a woman as his vice president. But while I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last. Because every little girl watching tonight sees that this is a country of possibilities. And to the children of our country, regardless of your gender, our country has sent you a clear message. Dream with ambition, lead with conviction, and see yourselves in a way that others may not, simply because they've never seen it before. But know that we will applaud you every step of the way. And to the American people, no matter who you voted for, I will strive to be a vice president like Joe was to President Obama, loyal, honest, and prepared, waking up every day thinking of you and your family. Because now is when the real work begins, the hard work, the necessary work, the good work, the essential work to save lives and beat this epidemic, to rebuild our economy so it works for working people, to root out systemic racism in our justice system and society, to combat the climate crisis, to unite our country and heal the soul of our nation. And the road ahead will not be easy, but America is ready, and so are Joe and I. We have elected a president who represents the best in us, a leader the world will respect and our children will look up to, a commander-in-chief who will respect our troops and keep our country safe, and a president for all Americans.
My fellow Americans, and the people who brought me to the dance, Delawareans. I see my buddy Senator Tom Carper down there, and I think Senator Coons is there, and I think the governor's around. And is that Ruth Ann? And that former Governor Ruth Ann Minner. Most importantly, my sisters-in-law, my sister Valerie. Anyway. Folks, the people of this nation have spoken. They've delivered us a clear victory, a convincing victory, a victory for we the people. We've won with the most votes ever cast on a presidential ticket in the history of the nation, 74 million. What I must admit has surprised me. Tonight, we're seeing all over this nation, all cities and all parts of the country, indeed across the world, an outpouring of joy, of hope, renewed faith in tomorrow, bring a better day. And I'm humbled by the trust and confidence you've placed in me. I pledge to be a president who seeks not to divide, but unify, who doesn't see red states and blue states, only sees the United States. And work with all my heart, with the confidence of the whole people, to win the confidence of all of you. And for that is what America, I believe, is about. It's about people. And that's what our administration will be all about. I sought this office to restore the soul of America, to rebuild the backbone of this nation, the middle class, and to make America respected around the world again, and to unite us here at home. It's the honor of my lifetime that so many millions of Americans have voted for that vision. And now, the work of making that vision is real. It's a task, the task of our time. Folks, as I said many times before, I'm Jill's husband. And I would not be here without her love and tireless support of Jill and my son Hunter and Ashley, my daughter, and all our grandchildren and their spouses and all our family. They're my heart. Jill's a mom, a military mom, an educator. She has dedicated her life to education. But teaching isn't just what she does, it's who she is. For American educators, this is a great day for y'all. You're going to have one of your own in the White House. And Jill's going to make a great first lady. I'm so proud of her. And I'll have the honor of serving with the fantastic vice president who you just heard from, Kamala Harris, who makes history as the first woman, first black woman, the first woman from South Asian descent, the first daughter of an immigrant ever elected in this country. Don't tell me it's not possible in the United States. It's long overdue. And we're reminded tonight of those who fought so hard for so many years to make this happen. Once again, America's bent the arc of the moral universe more toward justice. Kamala, Doug, like it or not, your family, you become an honorary Biden. There's no way out. All those of you who volunteered and worked the polls in the middle of this pandemic, local elected officials, you deserve a special thanks from the entire nation. And to my campaign team and all the volunteers and all who gave so much of themselves to make this moment possible, I owe you. I owe you. I owe you everything. And to all those who supported us, I'm proud of the campaign we built and ran. I'm proud of the coalition we put together, the broadest and most diverse coalition in history. Democrats, Republicans, independents, progressives, moderates, conservatives, young, old, urban, suburban, rural, gay, straight, transgender, white, Latino, Asian, Native American. I mean it, especially those moments, and especially for those moments when this campaign was at its lowest ebb. The African-American community stood up again for me. You've always had my back, and I'll have yours. I said at the outset, I wanted to represent this campaign to represent and look like America. We've done that. Now that's what I want the administration to look like and act like. For all those of you who voted for President Trump, I understand the disappointment tonight. I've lost a couple times myself. But now, let's give each other a chance. It's time to put away the harsh rhetoric, lower the temperature, see each other again, listen to each other again. And to make progress, we have to stop treating our opponents as our enemies. They are not our enemies. They are Americans. They are Americans. The Bible tells us to everything there is a season, a time to build, a time to reap and a time to sow, and a time to heal. This is the time to heal in America. Now this campaign is over. What is the will of the people? What is our mandate? I believe it's this. Americans have called upon us to marshal the forces of decency, the forces of fairness, to marshal the forces of science and the forces of hope in the great battles of our time. The battle to control the virus, the battle to build prosperity, the battle to secure your family's health care, the battle to achieve racial justice and root out systemic racism in this country, and the battle to save our planet by getting climate under control, the battle to restore decency, defend democracy, and give everybody in this country a fair shot. That's all they're asking for, a fair shot. Folks, our work begins with getting COVID under control. We cannot repair the economy, restore our vitality, or relish life's most precious moments, hugging our grandchildren, our children, our birthdays, weddings, graduations, all the moments that matter most to us until we get it under control. On Monday, I will name a group of leading scientists and experts as transition advisors to help take the Biden-Harris COVID plan and convert it into an action blueprint that will start on January the 20th, 2021. That plan will be built on bedrock science. It will be constructed out of compassion, empathy, and concern. I will spare no effort, none, or any commitment to turn around this pandemic. Folks, I'm a proud Democrat, but I will govern as an American president. I'll work as hard for those who didn't vote for me as those who did. Let this grim era of demonization in America begin to end here and now. The refusal of Democrats and Republicans to cooperate with one another. It's not some mysterious force beyond our control. It's a decision, a choice we make. And if we can decide not to cooperate, then we can decide to cooperate. And I believe that this is part of the mandate given to us from the American people. They want us to cooperate in their interest. And that's the choice I'll make. And I'll call on Congress, Democrats and Republicans alike, to make that choice with me. The American story is about slow yet steadily widening the opportunities in America. And make no mistake, too many dreams have been deferred for too long. We must make the promise of the country real for everybody, no matter their race, their ethnicity, their faith, their identity, or their disability. Folks, America has always been shaped by inflection points, by moments in time where we've made hard decisions about who we are and what we want to be. Lincoln in 1860, coming to save the Union. FDR in 1932, promising a beleaguered country a new deal. JFK in 1960, pledging a new frontier. And 12 years ago, when Barack Obama made history, he told us, yes, we can. Well, folks, we stand at an inflection point. We have an opportunity to defeat despair, to build a nation of prosperity and purpose. We can do it. I know we can. I've long talked about the battle for the soul of America. We must restore the soul of America. Our nation is shaped by the constant battle between our better angels and our darkest impulses. And what presidents say in this battle matters. It's time for our better angels to prevail. Tonight, the whole world is watching America. And I believe at our best, America is a beacon for the globe. We will lead not only by the example of our power, but by the power of our example. I've always believed, many of you heard me say it, I've always believed we can define America in one word: possibilities. That in America, everyone should be given an opportunity to go as far as their dreams and God-given ability will take them. You see, I believe in the possibilities of this country. We're always looking ahead to an America that's freer and more just, ahead to an America that creates jobs with dignity and respect, ahead of America that cures diseases like cancer and Alzheimer's, ahead to an America that never leaves anyone behind, ahead of America that never gives up, never gives in. This is a great nation. It's always been a bad bet to bet against America. We're a good people. This is the United States of America. And there's never been anything we've been not able to do when we've done it together. Folks, in the last days of the campaign, I began thinking about a hymn that means a lot to me and my family, particularly my deceased son, Bo. It captures the faith that sustains me, which I believe sustains America. And I hope it can provide some comfort and solace to 230,000 Americans who've lost a loved one to this terrible virus this year. My heart goes out to each and every one of you. Hopefully this hymn gives you solace as well. It goes like this: and he will raise you up on eagle's wings, bear you on the breath of dawn, and make you to shine like the sun, and hold you in the palm of his hand. And now together, on eagle's wings, we embark on the work that God and history have called upon us to do, with full hearts and steady hands, with faith in America and in each other. with love of country, a thirst for justice. Let us be the nation that we know we can be. A nation united, a nation strengthened, a nation healed. The United States of America, ladies and gentlemen, there's never been anything we've tried we've not been able to do. So remember, as my grandpapa, our grandpapa used to say when I walked out of his home when I was a kid up in Scranton, he said, Joey, keep the faith. And our grandmother, when she was alive, she yelled, no, Joey, spread it. Spread the faith. God love you all. May God bless America, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We've got breaking news. As we have been speaking, NBC News has projected President Trump as the winner of the state of Alaska, a state that was still counting ballots. Republican Senator Dan Sullivan also held on to his Senate seat there.
Breaking news overnight, NBC News projecting Joe Biden wins Arizona. Biden flips the state that hadn't voted for a Democrat since 1996 for president. At the same time, that state, the home of Barry Goldwater and John McCain, now has 2 Democratic U.S. senators. With his win, President-elect Joe Biden adds 11 more electoral votes to his total, bringing him currently to 290. North Carolina and Georgia are now the only states left. Both races still deemed too close to call. Just over 14,000 votes separate Biden and Trump in Georgia, where a statewide hand recount has been ordered, but most likely North Carolina will go to Trump, Georgia to Biden.
NBC News is now ready to make a couple calls. Let's start with the first. In the state of Georgia, where there's currently a hand recount being done, Joe Biden is the apparent winner. Again, Joe Biden, the apparent winner in Georgia. We use the word apparent when results could change, such as in a recount, although it's not expected that Donald Trump is going to make up that deficit in Georgia. Also, in the state of North Carolina, another state that we had been waiting on, we can now say that Donald Trump is the winner of North Carolina, the projected winner of North Carolina. This gives Donald Trump 15 electoral votes. But Joe Biden is still well in the lead in the Electoral College and is now president-elect and has been so since Pennsylvania was called. Biden with 306 electoral votes, Donald Trump with 232. If everything remains as it is right now, that will be the outcome of the election, 306 to 232. Joe Biden taking over the Sun Belt, Arizona, and getting Georgia. Quite a remarkable thing for a Democrat.